And clear of the closing doors, please.
What up, son? What up? Today, Grind&Pivot, Queens, New York, a music icon who needs no introduction, but is going to get one. Double-digit gold and platinum records, over 25 million sold. And I personally think, and I know you people out there might think the same thing, one of the most underrated songwriters out there. The real captain, Mr. Mark F., and that F stands for FN, even though it stands for Frederick, whatever you like, Farner. Welcome aboard, my captain. Welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you, Louie. Good to be here with you, brother. Yeah, man, I'm proud to be sucking air.
Excellent. You're looking great. You really are. How's the bone suit, as you would say?
The bone suit is progressing quite nicely. I'm still crapping and burping and farting and,
Totally. At this time
still good.
Yeah, at this time of our lives, bro, that's about it. I mean, getting up, taking a piss and crapping, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So you've told your story many, many, many times over. I know that. I'm not going to go crazy with everything that you've done, but I would love to delve into some of the things that perhaps you could shed some light on. So first, take us back a little bit to the original, the Terry Knight and the Pack, and give us a little bit of a background of how that came to be. And also, very important, I want you to tell your Cape Cod story and your STD fiasco.
Oh, well, Terry Knight and the Pack. I was actually playing rhythm guitar with Dick Wagner and the Bossmen. And Dick Wagner, of course, is a guitar player for Alice Cooper, Ursa Majors. He's a monster guitar player. God rest his soul. He taught me a lot. He taught me, he was the one that inspired me, Louie, to write music.
Really?
We were at his house, 3:00 in the morning. We just came in from a gig that we did up north. His wife and kids are in the other room sleeping. So we got our electric guitars, but not plugged in, just kind of soft playing back and forth. He's showing me some stuff. And I came out, I said, Dick, man, how do you write all these songs? I mean, you got a million songs. Where do they come from? He said, they come from inside of you, Mark. He says, you can write music. I looked at him. I said, I can? Yeah. He says, you can, dude. So when he went to bed, I stayed up and I wrote Heartbreaker. And that was my first song. And Dick got up in the morning and I showed it to him. And he helped me put a resolve on it. He helped a little bit with it, but I had the words and the chord progressions down. And he just showed me some chord inversions to make. But that's how I got started. And I left Dick Wagner and the Bossmen to go play bass guitar for Terry Knight and the Pack. Their bass player had been drafted, Herman Jackson, and they wanted me to, because I could sing, they wanted me to play bass. And I had never played a bass prior to that, but I took it because I said, well, I can play guitar, so I should be able to play, 4 strings. That's 2 less than 6. There's a lot more to it than that, as you know, Louie. But I figured it out, and I played the parts that they had already laid on records, and then I laid some parts on records, and did bass guitar with Terry Knight and the Pack. And then it got to a point where Don Brewer and myself, the drummer and myself, were talking, and I said to Brewer, I said, dude, why is Terry Knight, the lead singer of this band, just because it's his name, because he sure can't sing any better than you or I can. I said, if it's the lead singer, well, why? Let's name it either you or me and the pack, And he said, man, he says, you're right. He says, I'm getting up where I can't even stand his pressing on stage and combing his hair and all the things that he thought was cool. And we thought he was wussing out, So we fired him. We got rid of Terry Knight and we started the pack. In fact, we started the Fabulous Pack. And we had a guitar player, Kenny Rich, from Ontario, Canada. And we had Craig Frost on keyboards. Kenny Rich was a guitar player. And we had Rod Lester on bass, Don Brewer on drums, and me up there in front, just singing, not playing anything. But once in a while, I play a tambourine. But I was singing. You were just
fronting the band.
Fronting the band, exactly.
Wow.
And we played great places like the Beachcomber in Ashtabula, Ohio. Where we would stay in the motel room, and Craig and I would go down to the grocery store because we always got up early. And I'm looking at these pea shooters, and I look at Craig. I said, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?"
So what year is this?
We're talking 68.
Great.
We're talking 68. So we buy the pea shooters, a bag of these jackrabbit beans that shot down through those pea shooters. Very slick. I mean, just perfect fit. We go into Kenny Rich's room. He's still sleeping. And Craig is one of the guys he's rooming with. So we had the key. And he sets up. He says, "Hi, guy. What are you guys doing?" And so I throw this brown paper bag up on the bed. He goes, "Oh, you got me something." And he looks down in the bag like this. And he sees a pea shooter and a bag of beans. And when he looks back up, we're already locked and loaded on him. We go, just peppering him with that. And we run out, and he chases us out, opens his beans, and he's shooting at us. And we're, climbing up on the roof of the motel. We had a great time as a band. We really had a good time with each other. And that band was the band that went to Cape Cod. And we stayed in summer cottages on the Cape in East Sandwich, Massachusetts. It was our first time. Us Michigan boys had never seen the ocean before. So, the first days we were there, we're out on the beach picking up starfish and shells and all kinds, the things that guys from Michigan would pick up to take back home and show everybody. Yeah, here's the evidence. We saw the ocean. Right. We were there. So all that stuff went in the crawl space under these two cottages. Now, we were there on the auspices of doing free shows at these certain clubs and gigs that we had. And if we did good, then we could go back and we could really make some good money. This is what they pitched us. So we go out there because we said, well, they're paying our way there. We might as well, because, we've worn Michigan out. We played every place there is to play. Let's go out there. We're out there and we're in these summer cottages. And then it turns 1969, and the snowstorm comes down and we are bombarded with the world's worst snowstorm ever. And I mean, 2 feet of snow in East Sandwich, Massachusetts. And you couldn't get out of there. There was no cars going any place. The pipes froze. All the starfish and the shells and everything that we had collected were frozen into the ice underneath these cottages. The pipes broke, Louie. It was bad. It was really, really bad. In fact, without water, you can't flush a toilet. So you're not going to piss in there or take a dump in there. So what we did, we had some plastic bags in these brown paper sack, grocery sacks. We had this old chair that didn't have a seat bottom in it. And that was our stool. And we slid that in place. We did it in the bathroom, though. We sit there and do our thing, roll this thing up and take it out and bury it in the snowbank. And I always told the guys after we left, I said, man, I would have hated to been the dude doing the spring cleanup around those cabins, you know. But eventually, things were really bad. I mean, really bad. Huddled up around a gas space heater that it couldn't even keep up with one room, let alone, you know, the bedrooms, the kitchen, or whatever. We just huddled around that thing as a team and tried to stay alive. And then finally, Don Brewer got the guy at the East Sandwich grocery store to allow him to use the phone. He called his mother in Michigan. His mother Western Unioned some cash up to a drugstore up on the coast. We got off the Cape and hitchhiked north up to this drugstore and picked up the money, rented a van, went back, picked up our equipment, our guys, and headed out back to Michigan. But by the time we got back to Michigan, the two guys that were married, Kenny Rich and Craig Frost, their wives were threatening divorce, and it was not a good picture. They had to leave the band. So there we were talking about this, and I said, you know something? And Rod Lester, somebody had called and wanted him to become a manager on this horse ranch up there. And he says, you guys, I'm going to have to take this gig because I am penniless, and they're going to give me some money to start, and they're going to put me on a salary. And, you know, we said, hey, we can't blame you, brother. Go ahead and do that. And then Don and I are talking. I says to Don, I said, why don't we just start a 3-piece band? He says, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, you know, let's get a bass player and make sure he's not married or even have a girlfriend, because we didn't want the women screwing up our band again. You know, here we are, 20-year-old kids, you know, that's what we figured happened was the women screwed the band up. So we agreed that, yeah, let's do that. We'll look for a bass player. But in the meantime, let's go to Bay City and talk to the guy who owns Delta Promotions. That was the outfit that sent us to Cape Cod, because we found out just before we left the East Coast that we were actually being paid $350 a night for all these gigs that we did. And we wanted to find out what happened to our money and why they told us we were having to play for free in the first place. We had some questions to ask this gentleman. So we're in the outer office in the waiting room, and part of the facility was a rehearsal facility up there. And at Delta Promotions, there was a band in the rehearsal facility rehearsing. And so we're waiting. Don and I are sitting there, twiddling our thumbs, tapping our feet. All of a sudden, this band starts to rehearse. And I'm going, Brew, are you listening to that bass player? He said, hell yes, man. Are you kidding me? I said, that guy can play bass, man. We got to see who that is. So when they take their break, and we're still sitting in the waiting room, but they take their break, it's Question Mark and the Mysterians. And Mel Shocker was playing bass for Question Mark and the Mysterians at the time. And Mel and I went to school together. We jammed together. We rode dirt bikes together. We smoked dope together. We did all, you know, and I went, Melvin, and he looks over at me and says, what are you guys doing here? I said, man, we come here. And I told him the story. I said, we're going to give this guy a piece of our mind and see if we can't get our money that we made out there. He says, well, good luck on that. And I said, by the way, man, what are you doing? Don and I are talking about starting a 3-piece band. He says, well, your timing is perfect, man, because I crashed one of the question mark and the Mysterian vans, and they're kind of pissed off at me, and I'm ready to make a change. So we started rehearsing the very next week in Flint, Michigan at the Flint Federation of Musicians Hall, the Union Hall on Averill Street. And Frank Geyer was the guy running the hall. And he kept running out and saying, you boys, turn them things down. We can't even hear the phones ringing. We didn't think it was that loud. Of course, young guys. And that's how we got our start. And it all resulted from that trip to Cape Cod, brother.
That's amazing. Great story. I love the fact that you remember so many of the small, the small items about that. And not only that, I've heard you speak a lot, back with other interviews, and I never really heard. That's a good one. I heard it was cold. I know it was this, but this is really hardcore. And then meeting Mel, who incidentally 96 Tears and this Mysterians. Yeah, I know he didn't play on that, but I know he was with the band. So explain to everybody, and I know it's not really a touchy subject anymore because I know you've kind of come full circle. Terry got involved again somehow, and you knew deep down inside he was gonna fuck you. You knew it. And you said it, you called it, but talk about how that got happened, and then the whole Atlanta pop thing evolved.
Well, as we were practicing and getting the group together, and it didn't take long, Louie. It was just like in a week, I had written probably 7 songs, at least a song a day. And we were feeling pretty good about it because we were rehearsing those songs, and I would write another one, and we would rehearse that. So Don Brewer came one day and said, listen, I know you don't like him, but I've been staying in touch with Terry Knight, and he's got some connections in New York City, and he wants to manage this band. I said, how does he know he wants to manage this band? He's never even seen us. He said, he's just going on what he knows about you and I. And I told him you were writing these great songs and that, he would be proud of us. He says he wants to manage us, Farner. We ought to let him manage us. I said, are you kidding me, Brewer? He's going to screw us, dude. And Brewer looks at me and says, well, at least we'd be getting out of Flint, Michigan. Screwed or not, we'd be out of here. And so we got the gig at the Atlanta Pop Festival because the attorneys for Terry Knight were doing the legal work. These guys from New York City were doing the legal work for this Atlanta, Georgia Pop Festival. It was called Atlanta Pop. So they worked it out. I don't know if it was like a reduction in their fee or how they did it, but that's what we surmised, and got us the opening slot starting July 3rd, because it went 3rd, 4th, and 5th over the weekend. And we got opening act at 12 noon. So, man, we were like, oh my God, no one ever heard of a pop festival. Yeah, I mean, we didn't know what to expect. So we head out. A friend of ours, Jeep Holland, who had an booking agency that booked some bands around Michigan, and he was out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. He had a Chevy window van that he loaned to us to drive down to Atlanta, Georgia. And we put a U-Haul on the back of that van with one of those U-Haul clamp to your bumper trailer hitch. So off we go. And it was after a gig that we played in Michigan. So we were pretty tired, but Jimmy, the driver, he was also loaned to us by Jeep Holland, God rest his soul. But Jimmy had been up all night driving, and this was before I-75 was done. And we all had to take some back roads. So we were off on these back roads, and I was over riding shotgun, and I was, fast asleep, man. I could sleep standing up back then. But and the rest of the guys are sprawled out across the top of the equipment inside the window van, and they're in packing blankets, wrapped up and sleeping. Everybody's sleeping. So I wake up and I look out and I see this arrow and I-75, and I said, Jimmy, I-75 goes right here. And he just cranked that damn wheel, dude. And off we went. And the trailer went rolling down through the ditch, man. The safety chains did not work, of course. That didn't keep the trailer hooked to us. It was like rolling, and we went, oh, my God, our equipment. What the hell is it going to look like? We had to open the doors on the U-Haul, pull everything out a piece at a time, and there was pieces. There was pieces in there. But the main things, the speaker cabinets were in cases, road cases, and some of the stuff got broke, but we couldn't take time right then to fool with it. But we pulled it out so that we could right the trailer. And all the guys got on one side, and we kept rocking it up, and we pushed the thing up and over onto its wheels. And we backed the van down in there, hooked the trailer back up to this thing, and pulled the trailer up and carried all the equipment up and put it back in the trailer, close the door, and down the shoulder of the expressway we go. And right then, the first exit had U-Haul trailers, and we went, oh my God, are we lucky or what? We pull in, we swap out the trailer, put all the equipment in the new trailer, and away we go. And we figure we're going to be late anyways, but Jimmy was hauling ass, buddy. I mean, it was pedal to the metal. He had his foot in the kitchen and we were flying. We pulled up at Atlanta, Georgia at the Pop Festival site, and we were just maybe 25 minutes out from going on. But when we pulled up backstage, there were all these other roadies from these famous bands. So, I mean, we didn't know any of these roadies. We'd never seen them before. But our two guys were like, they didn't know what to do. And so some other guys came over and goes, oh, shit, man, what happened to your stuff? And we told them the story. And so they got together. They got a team. They are soldering the wires back together on these big transformers that ripped off the chassis of the amplifiers. They're soldering the traces that had snapped due to the circuit boards breaking. They put it back together in record time, got it up on that stage, and we were on time for the downbeat at noon. And that just happens to be the title of our first album, On Time. So how appropriate, because we played all the music from On Time that day. And yeah, brother, that's it. That's it. And then my background here, you can see I got the train back there sitting on the Leslie. I got all those pieces and that backwards ass clock.
Yes.
But we went up on the platform, which was up 12, 15 feet off the ground. And prior to getting up there, Louie, the only thing that we could relate to was, wow, what a massive noise. Because you look out through the fence and all you could see was just maybe the first, 5, 10 rows of people. And it wasn't really rows. It was just masses, but we knew there was a lot of folks up there. When we went up the steps to get on that stage, it's like I looked out and I went, oh my God, 185,000 people. That's a lot of people. It's right. As far as you can see with your eye.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
So we were really nervous. I told the guitar tech, I said, dude, I got to piss like a racehorse. And he goes, no, man, you're going out there and you got to give them your music now.
Right.
So we hit him with, are you ready? And we did all the music. And at the end of that set, they didn't want us to leave, man. So we gave them an encore, which was the only thing that we knew it would keep them stirred up, was Land of a Thousand Dances, but we did it Wilson Pickett style.
Absolutely.
Do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know. It's funny because I had knew that, and that is also ingratiated in you. You got a lot of soul. You're a rock and roller at heart, but I know deep down inside, and I'm going to bring something up just for a second, because I know you are a huge Howard Tate fan.
Oh, man, I am the biggest Howard Tate fan, brother.
That's
Lou.
what got you going, correct?
Oh, man, it is. Yeah, his voice, man, it spoke to me in a way that no other voice spoke to me. It's just like Jimi Hendrix's guitar, man. That spoke to me like nobody else's guitar spoke to me. So those two guys were my heroes.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that a little bit when we get into your whole songwriting and your process. So the gig was a great gig. You also have a pretty cool story about meeting somebody, and she was doing something a little funky.
Oh, you mean Janice?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You care to tell that again?
Yeah, I don't mind. But there was several stories with Janice. If you're talking about the one where we did the pop festival in West Palm Beach and the Rolling Stones were closing the show.
Oh no, tell me about that. But the one I was talking about was the Atlanta, I think, with the when you went into the trailer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you about this one because we were in West Palm Beach. It was a pop festival. There was all the main bands of the time were there. And we stayed in a hotel that was out on like an outskirting island out there off West Palm. And there was a Huey, a helicopter, an Army helicopter that had been done up like a motorhome on the inside.
Oh, yeah, this
with
is the one.
pin spots. Yeah, the cushions and nice plush. So during this period of time, anytime that we were on the same bill with Joplin, if she went on first, she would hang out and watch us. And if we went on first, I would hang out and watch her. And her and I would always get together. We'd have a few sips off of her Southern Comfort or her Ripple wine, whatever she had in the bag. And but we were not girlfriend, boyfriend. We were just really good friends. She thought a lot like I did concerning music and concerning the bullshit British invasion. So anyways, she had gone on first. She stayed, watched the band, and she rode back with Grand Funk in the helicopter. Now, when we got to the hotel, I mean, this is late at night. This is probably 2:00 in the morning at this time. And it's darker than the inside of a boot, brother. But all these crew guys have got their little flashlights and they're showing the way and everybody's going up to the hotel. And I look and I'm trying to find Janice. I said, "Hey, Ralph, is Janice up there with you?" "Nah, man, she ain't up here." I said, "Give me your light, man. I'm going to go back down to that chopper." So I take his flashlight and I go back down the path out to the beach where this thing was sitting there with the rotor going, I look up in there and I could see her look like she was massaging the cushions of this Huey that we had just got off. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is this girl doing? I get up on the rung of the chopper and I said, "Hey," she turned around. She said, "You scared the shit out of me." I got up. By that time, I'm standing inside this Huey and I'm looking around and I see that she has taken Hershey chocolate bars and smeared them on every seat in the chopper. She was finishing the last one when I got up in there and scared her. And I just looked at her, she had this cuteness like a little girl, like, she was kind of persnickety in her own way, but she was just had something cooking in her brain. And I looked at, I said, Janice, why are you doing this? She looks at me with that shit-eating grin on her face, Louie. She says, I want to mess up Mick's britches. So she thought the same as I did about the British invasion. I said, it's no invasion when somebody comes to your country and sings American English rock songs, because, that is the most sincere form of flattery. When somebody imitates you, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. I said, so we should feel flattered, and we should feel good that other people want to be like us. And her and I agreed on that, and we agreed on a lot of things. But we both agreed that the British invasion actually occurred 2 days before Christmas in 1913. It's called the Federal Reserve Act. Yeah, where this country signed itself back under the powers that we declared ourselves independent from in 1776. Hello.
There you go. There you go. So we're going to get back to the music in a second. Let's go back to family, growing up in where you did. And well, give us a little bit what it was like. Your mom, your dad, do you had siblings, school?
Yeah, my dad was a World War II veteran, tank driver.
Mine too.
God bless him. My dad was a tank driver in the 7th Armored Division. He returned from war with 4 Bronze Stars, which signifies he was in 4 major battles, and he made it through. And a lot of tank drivers didn't get to see a second one, Brother Louie. My mother was the first woman in the United States to weld on Sherman tanks at Fisher Body in Flint, Michigan. So we have been patriotic. My family is patriotic. I am especially patriotic because I would follow behind my dad and Uncle Woody. Just as a little shaver, 6, 7 years old, I'm out there following them as they're pheasant hunting, and I see a bird go up and I'd see a bird go down, at ringneck pheasants. And I heard my father tell my Uncle Woody, he says, if you want to know where the trouble of this world and all of the wars start, trace that money trail to the top. And as I got older, I found out that is where it all comes from. And even the trouble that we've been experiencing for the past couple of years, it comes from that same nest, the very same nest. But as a kid, my dad died when I was 9 years old. He and a fellow fireman were hit broadside by a train at a crossing that didn't have any lights. And I saw my mother just go into complete remorse. She passed out at the funeral, hit the deck, cracked her head. I'm telling you, it was really a traumatic thing to watch and to experience. There were 4 kids in the family at that time, 2 boys, 2 girls. And my mother remarried about a year and a half, 2 years later to a guy who was a millwright and at the stamp and frame shop in Flint, Michigan, where they make the pickup trucks and all the SUVs. Back then was the Blazers and S10s and all that. And he was 10 years younger than my mother. He was a great stepfather. She had 2 other babies by him, my sister Julie and brother Jimmy, and Jimmy's gone. He died here 15 years ago. God rest his soul. But the rest of us are still sucking air, and we're all over the place. I mean, I've got a brother lives in Florida. two sisters one's on the north end, one's on the south end of Flint. I got another sister by my stepdad that lives in a town north of Flint. And we're still family, love conquers all. And as long as you keep the love in focus, you can keep things together. But the minute you start holding somebody in debt for something that you perceived as a wrongdoing or something, it really screws shit up in a hurry.
I agree. It's a problem.
Yeah, man. So I learned to let things go from, especially, a lot of people say, man, what those other two guys did to you and what they're doing to you. I said, don't let it bother me. They are just off their path. And that's the way I have to look at it. Because if it was about love and it was about honesty, at least they would have said Grand Funk Revisited or something to give the fans a heads up that it's really not the Grand Funk that the fans heard and bought on those records that you were just holding up. I did happen to write 92% of that music, and I think that's enough to say I was an influential character in that group.
Yeah, 100%. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in a second, because I have my own, not my opinion, but I do have a question about that. And we're going to kind of dissect that a little bit. So what kind of student were you in school? Were you a good student? Were you a leader? Were you a follower? You have a lot of friends?
Well, I think the dean, or, especially the football coach, some of those guys thought that I was a ringleader. Really? But I'm 5'7".
Me too.
I'm not a big guy. I'm not a big guy. But when I was playing football in junior varsity, the team was undefeated. And we were undefeated, brother, because we hung out together. We smoked cigarettes together. We didn't smoke pot back then, but we drank beer together. We did everything together. And because we knew each other and we loved each other, we won every game. Even the games they said, man, these guys are going to cream your crop. Nope, we would kick their butts. And so this guy who was an algebra teacher and also a coach, football coach, kind of held it against me, because when I had to quit playing football because of injuries, I had water on the knee and a fractured finger and what have you, about half the team quit, and he thought I was the ringleader of those guys that quit. Anyways, so at this point in time, Holy Rosary, which was a Catholic school, that did the first half of their day at their school, and then they finished at our high school, Kersley High. They would make the switch at noon, and the bus would roll up, and there's all of the Holy Rosary kids coming in. Well, this football coach I'm speaking of was standing over by those entrance doors with half a dozen or 8 guys, and they always got together, and it was some of the football guys. And you could see them every noon, at some place in the school, but they would be all hanging together. And I hung over with some friends of mine in front of the heater because it was cold outside, and the radiator put out like monster heat, and we loved it. We, hung out there, and there was maybe, 4 or 5 guys there. And so this coach hollers over and he says, "Hey, Farner, move your guys." I said, "These are not my guys, man." And he comes over. He was so pissed off at me. He grabs me by the shirt and he throws me up against this brick wall where a picture of the superintendent of schools, George Daly, was in the picture, but the frame was brass, and my head ricocheted off that brass frame. And man, I saw stars, because this guy, when he grabbed me, he was really pissed. and I reached back because my head was hurting so bad, and I felt wet back
Really?
there.
Jesus.
And so I take my hand down. I'm looking at my hand, and it's blood filled. And I see this guy standing in front of me with this smirk on his face. And I just, boom, I nailed him. Down he went. He got back up. He's throwing these haymakers at me. I'm ducking, I'm timing it out. And just as I go to tag him again, my buddy, Derry Speck, grabs my arm. He says, Farner, man, you're in enough trouble already. Do not pursue this, please.
Holy shit.
So, anyways, they threw me out of school. I went back. I tried to, I even had an attorney that went in front of the school board with me. I tried to get back into school, and that coach and algebra teacher was sitting across the table from me. He says, listen, I want to tell you something right now. If you let this guy back in school, I'm going to resign. So they went, oh, nope, we're not letting him back. And at that point, even my attorney turned on me. So I walked out of there. I kind of stomped out of there. I was so pissed. And I got out, and I'm going to hitchhike home. And this attorney pulls over, and he says, Mark, get in the car. I said, if I got in that car, you would not like me a bit, because I would kick your ass, mister. I was just pissed at him. So he takes off and throws stones all over me. And I get home, and I told my mother what happened, and they're not going to let me back in school. And so I enrolled for night school at that time. I tried doing it, but when you're playing music, man, you're playing at night. So it wasn't working for me. And I went to my mom and stepdad, and I said, this is not really working for me, because it's eliminating my ability to make the money that I make when I'm playing music. And they said, well, you know what you want. You know what you can do, Mark. So you just go ahead and you make the decision. We're not going to hold you to anything. We just appreciate that you at least tried to do the night school thing. That was it, man. I was on my way to being that musician.
So when did the music bug actually hit you? And I know, when's the last time, by the way, just bring up a point. When's the last time you put your lips on a tuba?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I think it was 8th grade.
There you go. Tell me, when did the music bug really hit you, and how did it hit you?
Well, when I hurt myself, I injured myself playing that game. We scrimmaged the varsity, and they killed us. But on purpose, they killed us. But my mother felt sorry for me, because she knew that I lived to hear my name called over the loudspeaker at the football games. And they would say, that was Farner number 66 in on the tackle. And man, I would prance my ass across that field. I'm just, loving that stuff. Right. And she knew that. So she encouraged me by getting me 6 guitar lessons, and rented an acoustic guitar, a K flat top. That the strings were this far away from the neck, dude. It would have been better used as a bow and arrow, set to shoot arrows with. But that's really when I got interested, because when I took my first lesson, I learned from this guy to keep my fingernails on my left hand all clipped short, so that and let the calluses develop naturally there, of course. And playing the acoustic guitar, man, they definitely develop. And I learned how to tune the guitar, and I learned that little ditty, and then he's like playing rhythm to it, and then I would play rhythm. He showed me the chords, and in 3 lessons, I was picking it up pretty quick.
Right. So you had you obviously had the ears, right? I mean, it was one of those things. You had the gift of the ears. Yes. Did you always know that?
Well, I didn't know it, even though I loved to sing in the school choir, and I was a tenor in the school choir. And before I could, play guitar good enough to plug it in, I could stand at the microphone with my guitar cord going back to the amp where the cord would be looped through the handle and hanging over the back, but the light was on. Nobody knew it wasn't plugged in. And I would just kind of fake it. I was like Milli Vanilli in the guitar back then,
Air guitar.
Yeah. So then I got good enough to actually start playing. And, we played all of the wedding receptions, and we played parties, and anytime there was an opportunity, we played. And the only thing we asked, we would pass the hat for gas money, Louie, to get home. That's it. We just want enough to get home. And most of the time, people were way generous with us, and we had enough to get started at the next gig.
That's pretty cool. So let's go back with the band is you have the Atlanta Pop Fest. You're starting to rock and roll. When did you start writing your own stuff? Because you wrote 92%, even more. I mean, I went through all the records. I went through everything. The songs are great. They're great. I mean, what was your process? When did you start really putting together the songs, and kind of take us through your songwriting process? How's that?
Well, after I wrote Heartbreaker up there in Saginaw, Michigan at Dick Wagner's place, I was off and running. I knew I could write music then. And so I kept practicing, and I would go to bed playing my guitar, cover it up. It was next to me in that bed. I would wake up, throw back the covers, pull that guitar up in place, and start playing.
Okay.
And
so this is a big pivotal moment, would you say? A huge pivotal moment in your life?
Yes, absolutely. And I looked out the window. I was living at the farmhouse that my great-grandfather built and my mom and dad bought. And it was an 11-room farmhouse. And he poured every cement block that was in that house. It was a great old house. But my room overlooked the orchard and the cherry tree and the outhouse that we still used.
That's right.
Yeah. And the barn and, the stuff back there. And that's where the song Winter and My Soul came from. It just, I'm looking out the window, and, it just all came together. And I could put it together in my head as a picture as I'm writing this, and how the guitar made me feel. Even though it was me playing it, it didn't have an intention from my point of view. But it was still leading me, because I believe that musical ability that you speak of, Louie, was inspired by my family and getting together every Sunday and listening to the elders jam on their violin, banjo, guitars. My dad played sax and guitar, and all the women sang. And it was a great introductory to the love of music that I have. I had it back then as a little kid, and I have it today as a big kid.
Right, absolutely. So so it was naturally an innate ability that was there. You never realized it until you started expressing.
That's right. And just the jams, the guitar jams, the chords that you come up with, and the little licks that, oh man, that sounds good with a fuzz tone on. Let's do this, That's how every song began, except for I'm Your Captain. Closer to Home came from a prayer that was an extension of my Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep prayer that I say every night, and I pray for my family. I pray for the aunts and uncles, grandpas and grandmas. I prayed for all the cousins and everybody. And then on the end of my prayer that one night, 1970, I said, God, would you please give me a song that would reach and touch the hearts of those you want to get to? And I got up in the middle of the night. I don't know what time it was, but I wrote the lyrics because by this time in my life, I knew to have this steno pad next to my bed with a ink pen, because I missed out on a lot of things that came to me in the night, and they were kind of in a dream state, and I could hear some great things going on. And I thought, well, I'll just remember that in the morning, get up and write. Never. So anytime I got inspired after that in the night, I would get up and either write it down or put it on a cassette player, some way of, giving me a reference to what it was. So I write these lyrics, and I knew better than to try to go back to the top of the paper and start to read what I already put down. Something was just inherently, I knew I can't do that or this flow is going to stop. So I just kept writing until I wrote the whole song just like that. Just sat there and wrote the whole thing. I put that piece of paper down, rolled over, pulled a sheet over me, and I went back to sleep. And then when I got up the following morning, had my coffee going, I'm looking at the horses out in the pasture, and I grabbed my George Washburn acoustic guitar and I start playing that. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty cool lick, And then I grabbed that C chord inversion of the C that I'd never heard before because I don't know. I just grabbed it and there it is. I'm looking at my fingers going, wow, it's chimey. It's a very chimey, the overtones and the harmonics that I'm hearing are just like, wow, those notes really go good together. And as I start thinking about that, I start thinking about those words in the other room and I went, oh man, maybe that's a song here. And I go and got them. I put them on the kitchen table and I just start playing the song, those chords with that C in there, and started singing the song according to what I had written down prior there and in the middle of the night. And when I was in that state of mind, I was someplace between heaven and earth, but I was in an altered conscious state. And that was the song that came lyrics first. Most of my other songs, I could say 90% of the other songs came from a lick that I got onto, whether it was a piano, organ, guitar, whatever it was, it all came from licks.
Wow, goosebumps, brother, goosebumps. I never heard that one. That's real goosebumps. Now I did pick out while we're on that the inspiration, and I'm just trying to stay with it. How about the inspiration for Bad Time? One of my favorite, believe it or not, one of my favorite songs. I know. What can I tell you?
Awesome. I love it, man. You know that Bad Time, I got a BMI award for Bad Time in 1975 because it was played more than any other song in 1975. And this is back when you could call in. The 777 rule was still in effect. You could own 7 AM, 7 FM, 7 television stations. So all of our, the listening was in the hands of families. It wasn't a corporate state of conscious, music state like it has turned into. But when they deregulated 1996, that took all of the individual ownership out of the radio play and what we see on television. It also removed the safety that was in play and the moral conscience of these people that own the station that wouldn't allow certain things because of the moral content. And they were watching over, they were actually conscious about what our children were seeing and hearing back then.
Yeah, the cap's blown off, obviously, now.
Yeah, man.
Now we know.
And we are living in the results of, that corporate conglomerate takeover of the airwaves. I don't listen to music on the radio. I don't listen to the radio, except there is a few stations that I know of that are still individuals own them. And they are so catastrophically different than the corporate radio. Yeah. Radio turned to shit. And then you tune into one of these stations like WKLT in Northern Michigan here is a privately owned station. Man, they rock. They got DJs that actually, keep us together. The community is held together like it was back then, brother.
Right.
A lot of the DJs held our rock community tight because of their love for us, and their love for the music was the same as ours. And we could call in, ask them to play something, and they would play it, man. So 1975, there was a lot of people calling in that wanted to hear Bad Time to Be in Love. Thank you, brother Louie Max.
Absolutely, my man. So let me hear about, how did it come? Talk to me about Bad Time. You remember writing it? You remember the process?
Yeah, I remember I was on my keyboard, which was this little spinet piano. And it was in a room between the dining room and the living room. And I was in there, and I had just had words with my former wife, and she was hollering, and I was playing the piano, and I heard her saying how she's going to put a 12-inch cast iron skillet through my forehead. And I just said, man, this is a bad time to be in love right now. And so there it came, dude. It came on the piano. Then I transcribed it to the guitar and played it. And Jimmy Einer loved that song, man. Jimmy Einer. Hit song. Yeah, and he also produced not the Loco Motion, Some Kind of Wonderful.
Right.
Yeah, John Ellison's Some Kind of Wonderful. Because he was good. I think his whole thing was he could put the vocals across like nobody else. Yeah.
The Some Kind of Wonderful fits you right to the T. I think that whole feel, that groove is Mark Farner. You might not know it, but I think it really, really is.
Oh, now, it is.
Speaking of Loco Motion, just for a second, whose idea was it to actually do that cover?
It was Todd Rundgren's idea, but it was inspired by yours truly. As I was walking back from the farmhouse, which was across the street from the studio. The studio was down in the woods, hidden from sight. And the driveway, a dirt road that went back down to the studio, I was about halfway down to it. And I could hear the guys out in the parking lot of the studio. I couldn't see them yet because of the trees, but I could hear them. And I started saying, everybody's doing a brand new dance now. And then they would do the backgrounds, And I kept singing it, and they kept singing it, and I walk around the corner, and the studio door is wide open because they were getting some fresh air, letting some fresh air into the building. And these other guys were out in the parking lot having a smoke, and some of the roadies were out there, and they were just bullshitting. And Rundgren comes walking out of the studio. He says, "What the hell is that? What is that song?" I said, "What is that song, man? That's Little Eva. That's a Loco Motion." He says, right. "Well, get your ass in here because we are going to record the Loco Motion right now."
That is amazing. I have the original sheet, Mark. I told you before, I have the original sheet music.
Good,
I am proud to say. That is incredible. That's a great story, actually. Last one on the inspirations. I know. I don't know if you've been asked this, but you probably have. But I'm going to go with American band. You know, was there Sweet Sweet Connie? Was there? What was it? Was it biographical in any way, shape, or form? It was just another one of your things. You just naturally came out of you.
No, that actually the lyrics were Don Brewer's lyrics. It's totally my music, my chord change expression, my insisting on a cowbell, my drum lick on the intro that I taught to Don Brewer. I said, I can hear it, but man, and I know you can play it. And he kept saying, no, man, nobody can play that on the bass drum like that. I said, you're Don Brewer, by God, you can play it. I encouraged him and he got it. But I can tell you that a lot of those words came from our practical experience as a rock band. The Four Chiquitas, Sweet Sweet Connie, Freddie King.
Well, definitely.
We never tore any hotels up.
Right.
That was that's part of the.
Okay, that's great. That's great to hear. So it's a good segue now. The recording process. You never really talk. I never really heard you talk too much about what the recording process was. You had so many great records, so many songs. It's the three of you, basically. And talk a little bit about how you guys prepared, to get into the studio and how it went down. And also, never really heard you talk about this either. The two-part harmony between you and Brewer. Major part. Major, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Well, I think the two-part harmony goes perfectly with a three-piece group. There's still a lot of air in there, Louie. In fact, some of the hooks come from that vast air that's
the space.
Yeah, man, it's the space. It's anticipation. It gives you a minute to anticipate. It gives you a split second to get ready for whatever it is. But it's part of the magic of three-piece bands. And as far as the band actually getting out and doing it and performing it, you get the exhilaration from the audience, from the waves of emotion that would come over us. And we would come off the road being jacked up on this audience emotion, the waves of love hitting us on a stage, and go right into the studio. I forget which album it was, but we cut an entire album, all the tracks, overdubs, the vocals, the mix. It was done in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, everything. Boom. But when we first started, we were recording on a Scully 8-track, at Cleveland Recording. And Don Hammond, who's the studio owner, had a cache of microphones it was exhaustive. Some very, very, very good Austrian, German, microphones that anybody today would give their eye teeth for something like this. But his idea was, we don't want to put any EQ on things. So we pick the right microphone and it will capture the nature of that instrument. And without us adding the noise floor by, putting gain on the damn thing with EQ, we can keep it relatively under control. But he had ears that were, wow, super sensitive, man. And he would do things like putting a hinged board that had paint on one side. The other side had cloth on it with some padding. And he could go either this way around a microphone and point it, with the microphone pointing into the V of this board that he just created by, turning that on the hinge like that and pointing that into the speaker. And the back of the microphone was at the speaker, but the front of it was pointed into the V. And by separating that, the little, that little wedge with its hinge together, it changes the EQ dramatically without having to touch a knob, adding noise. And I learned from Todd Rundgren because I asked him to I said, that guitar in the right speaker over there, I said, can you give it just like a little bit of 3.5 kilohertz? And he says, I'll tell you what would do, Mark, I'll show you. So he pulls everything down in the mix. He brings this guitar up and he's got the graphic equalizer. He says, what would happen if I goosed 3.5? We would get what you're wanting to hear. But what if I just pull everything else down around it so that it's already sticking out a little bit and we've reduced the noise floor and still achieved that tonal clarity that you're looking for? And I went, holy shit, bang, the light went on. Dude, it was like, oh my God. Yeah, that's it. That's what Ken Hammond was doing. He was keeping that noise floor down. And people that are that tuned in, I like working with those people. You can learn something from somebody like that. And, that was part of my upbringing and part of what I know for sure. And I'm working with Mark Slaughter right now, doing some recordings of some songs, and we've written some music together. And I'm sharing some of this because I love the guy, man. He's my brother, and he's part Native American himself. And so, working with him, I get to share some of the cachet of my knowledge, and he gets to share some of his with me. And it's all about the love, brother, because that's what the music's got.
No doubt.
For the people.
No doubt. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Well, thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So, what was it like, Mark? It's a lot of years ago, but it really is. I mean, for us, you're a little older than me, but not by much. What was it like being really the biggest fucking band in the world? What was it like? Share a little bit of how you kind of strut your shit stuff back then.
Well, actually, we couldn't figure out when we would read some of these bad reviews, right? We said, what show was that asshole at? What show did he go and see? Because he wasn't at our show.
What is their problem? What was their problem? What do you think their problem was?
I think part of it, brother, was the fact that Terry Knight told us, we're going to create a mystique.
Yeah.
And we are not going to allow any reporters or any interviewers to speak directly with the band. He said, I will do the interviews. I will intercede. And what that did, brother, was gave him the opportunity to tout his managerial and production abilities, which he really didn't have. He was a hustler. That's what
he was. P.T. Barnum, right? P.T. Barnum.
Yeah, man. Exactly. But he did have that going.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
He could sell snowballs to Eskimos.
Okay, so you know what? Let's call that he had that. No doubt about it. But on the other hand, though, obviously he was hiding everything else. He just wasn't forthcoming. And I know you have actually you've forgiven him. I know that, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. If I didn't, I'm telling you, that would eat your lunch, Louie. So if you hold that and you have this bitterness, it would change the expression on your face. It would change who you are as far as
your makeup,
countenance. Yes, brother, your makeup, man, what people look at and see. And when I go on stage, I want people to see somebody who is free from that bullshit.
How'd you get yourself out? How you doing now, basically? And how'd you get yourself out of that raw deal? Have you ever really talked about that?
Well, not really as a band, because the other two guys split off and started doing their own things and back in the late 90s, and then early, I think it was 2001. I think they went out for the first time as Grand Funk, but they didn't tell anybody I was not in the band. I was no longer with the group. And they've been able to pull it off as far as staying together. But I've heard so many stories of people that were disappointed that had gone to see those guys, and they didn't know that I wasn't in the band until they got there. And then when they came to see me and I'm out there signing autographs at the autograph booth, at the merch booth, I hear a lot of stories.
Right.
And it's not, some of the things are not nice, but my mom always said, if you don't have something good to say about somebody, keep your mouth shut.
Of course. So, yeah, I know. So I know it was a long road for you to kind of get back on it. Basically just working hard. Is that what it really got to? Touring and working hard and just keep on going?
Yeah, because if you're being fed, through that audience reaction, and you receive that kind of love, Louie, you're not going to quit.
Okay.
It is the love. And you, my friend, because of your love for music, you have a deep compassion for music. That love, man, that's what drives you. That's what I hear. That's what I see when I look at Louie Max. When I see that face, I see the sincerity. You are being truthful.
No, I am.
And
I really am.
This is what the people hear in your podcast, in broadcasting, what our voices are saying, taking to people. They're going, oh yeah, man. And they're ringing with it, because you know something, we are all, we lived our experience, but we came from love. When we were these little teeny kids, I mean, look at the babies, how we nurture the babies and we protect those babies. You feel, before that kid can even utter a word, you feel the energy of that little baby. That's love. And that is who we are in our nucleus. It is who I'm looking at when I look at you. It is who each one of us are. And because of that love, I believe the Creator has given us the music to take love to people, to stir the love in people so that they can give it back to us, which powers us to the next show where we can give it again and get it back and give it again and get it back, brother.
Yeah. God bless. God bless. No, I hear you. I hear you. So here's my question.
Yeah.
To this day, why couldn't you guys, I'm not saying you, I'm saying all three, why couldn't you guys, 2022, find a way? And I know you would, but what the hell, why can you not figure out a way to just put it together?
It is.
What do you think? Is it a loaded question?
No, I don't think it's loaded, Louie. I think it's very honest. And because I used to ask the same questions concerning the Beatles, I'm thinking, I wanted to see them live. Kind of selfish of me. Okay. But I did want to see the Beatles live. I wanted to see that magic, and nobody could give me that magic except those four guys on a stage together. There it would have been. And I'm thinking, you assholes, why don't you give it to us fans while you're still sucking air? Because at some point in time, band members are going to start dropping off and stop sucking air.
Hello.
Yeah. And so for 22, 23 years, I have pitched it at every opportunity that I've had to speak with those other two guys. I kept saying, why don't we go out and give the fans what neither one of us can give them separate from each other?
Right. How can I interject for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's put all that bullshit to put away. Corporate culture, 2022. Everybody's all about money. That's all they're about. How about financially?
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Yeah, exactly. And you go, what is wrong with them? What are they thinking?
Well, there is a reason. There must be a reason. What do you think the reason is?
Well, a friend of mine who works DEA out of DC told me, he said, it's like if somebody takes advantage of you and they premeditate and they pull it off, Farner, those people are not going to want you around them because they think that you are like them and that somehow you would retaliate and get back at them. And that kind of made sense, Louie. And not saying that that's what it is, but that's what it could be for sure. I'd never heard it put like that. I kept thinking, what is it? But it could be that.
Yeah, it could be. You're right. You're right. But you know what? Here's the deal. What I'm thinking, you're not 22, you're not 25, you're not 30, you're not 35. We're older, somewhat wiser. The chapters of the book is getting smaller, right?
Yeah.
Like you say, your bone suit is still rocking, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand it. But I think it's a good. I thought it was a good question to really talk to you, because I don't understand it, because I see other bands that have some different lineups. Listen, if the guy's not alive, okay.
That's yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
But the guy's alive. I mean, I'm not I could mention, like Journey. I mean,
yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
All right. So what it is,
buddy? Yeah. Yeah. What about Farner? Oh my God.
Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know. I'm listening, and I'm a I'm a fan. So it's, you go there and you really want to experience the magic, magic. You guys, no matter how much you slice it, had the magic. All right. Mel was in the band. He was a real good compliment, no doubt. But you and Brewer vocally, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the high parts. All right. So you can get anybody to sing the high parts. All right. Big deal. But that's not what we're talking about.
No. No, that's right.
Yeah.
And, I was talking with Hunter Nelson, who was a guest DJ on a station in Cleveland, Ohio. They called me up, him and David Spiro, and Hunter says, Farner, man, I'm so glad you picked up the phone. I just found out something that I wanted to share with you. I said, what is that, brother? He said, the group, the Platters. You remember the Platters? Sure. And I'm going, yeah, man, I remember the Platters. Yeah. He says, there is 126 different groups of people that go out as the Platters. But one guy owns that trademark, and he licenses the use of that trademark to 126 different bands that he takes a cut every time they go and play. Hello. Just exactly what you're talking about just a few seconds ago. It's all about the money.
Yeah. Oy vey, as they say in New York.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. What's your take on the music business today, Mark? Any advice for the upcoming kids, musicians? I know it's a completely different game now. Getting a record deal is not what it used to be. What, you have any advice?
the only advice I have for the musicians, because I can't give it from a business standpoint, because the business is, as you mentioned, I mean, it's not what it used to be. And I don't pretend to know what it's going to be. And anybody that does is a crap shooter. But I do know from my personal experience that if you have the talent given by the Almighty to play music, to write music, to sing music, use that ability to find the love within yourself, express that love, because this is what our dying world needs a shot of.
That's crazy, because the next question I had was forget about the politics, forget right or left, forget all the bullshit for a second.
Yeah.
What the hell has happened? What the hell has happened to us?
The deregulation of the FCC, brother, 1996, it left the ownership of the media, not only radio, television, AM, FM, and television, but the printed news left the hands of patriotic Americans, went into the hands of those who are funded by the families that own the Federal Reserve, and not only issue the currency to the United States since 2 days before Christmas 1913, but they issue to Canada, Mexico, South Africa. They issue to parts of South America. They issue to New Zealand, Australia, Japan. I mean, you name wherever these English settlements were around the globe, these characters have taken over that narrative. And people were saying to me, how the hell could this happen all at one time, all over the world? Well, it's how many countries these particular people issue the currency to. And we have believed in their fairy tale. We have bought into it to a big time, but really nothing is as it appears to be. It's all a mirage, dude, because it's made from something they say has value and we believe has value, but that's the only thing it's built on. Where is the real transit value? I mean, there isn't that much gold in the universe.
Right.
Forgot about it.
Interesting take. I'm not going to get you going too much on that. Anybody in the business you have regular touch with, that you talk to, that email or that you telephone, you have friends?
Oh yeah. Felix Cavalieri, he is a brother. Kip Winger's a brother. Sandy Gennaro, Teddy Zigzag, Mark Slaughter, of course, who I'm working with now. I believe we are supposed to be working together because he's helping me work some stuff out. Tom Fletcher, the producer, Tom Fletcher, man, what a great producer. And he's got great insight. Lance Abair, who is Mindy Abair's dad, he was a keyboard player in one of my earlier renditions of my band, God Rockers. And he's been a guru, like a professor to me. He has said things to me that, man, I just love talking to that guy because all of his experience is practical and he hasn't let anything take him into the shitter. And I love that about him, because I don't want to end up in the shitter myself.
No doubt about it. So let's strip around. We're getting towards the end a little bit, but what's Mark Farner really like? Are you an even keel guy? You have your moods, tell us what you really like. I'm sure a lot of people, see you on the road and you're so vivacious, so full of energy. What's a day in the life? What's a real day in the life? And what's Mark Farner really like?
Well, we had, I'm a farmer. I'm a farner who farms. And we raise our own garden, I get down on my hands and knees. I'm digging in the dirt. I get the dirt underneath my fingernails. I'm being grounded to the earth that we live on when I'm down there. There's nothing to isolate my skin from the frequency of mother. And I really enjoy that. And I think that's part of why I have enjoyed such great health over the years. I don't take any medicine, none. I mean, I take what's the name of that? Armor Thyroid. It's not a medicine. It's real thyroid, because at my age, I'll be 74 this year, brother. I guess I needed a little thyroid, but and thank God that I don't take anything else, because I know a lot of my friends, man, geez, they got pills lined up on the counter like, oh my God, all this pharmaceutical stuff. I believe that pharmaceutical stuff is what takes people out early and works on their kidneys and their livers and what have you. But a day in my life, I might go ice fishing tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah, man. And I got this little snow dog that pulls my sled. It's a you pull start this thing. It's like a skidoo or a snowmobile, but it doesn't have a seat on it. It's just a little tractor that pulls you, and it pulls me. It pulls a sled I ride in with some of the gear, and it pulls the clam that I set up on the ice behind it. So I've got this little train going out there, and I go out and set up. I got my little heater in there, magic heater, and I start that baby up and start catching fish. I go out with my brother-in-law, David, and the guys at Fish Camp, and we have good fellowship. We eat like little kings, man.
Got to eat.
Yeah, brother. And I'm telling you, these fresh caught 10-inch bluegills that you fillet them, and you put that slab into little Drake's dry mix, and then deep fry that stuff. Oh, it's such a sweet meat with that crispy golden brown outside, and always something good to go with it. And just the fellowship, and each one of us has to work. Of course, in the winter, you're going to lift your legs a little higher, or you're going to be shoveling that shit out of the way, and you're going to be getting exercises that you would not get if you was down in the southern states, in Florida, for one. I mean, you don't shovel a lot of snow, and you don't have to lift your legs up to. So in the north, we work a little harder just by virtue of being here, by the nature of the all the weather that we have around us. So that is part of my health and what keeps me healthy. My wife, Lisa, keeps feeding me all this good food, and she instructs me a lot about what I need to avoid as far as, certain symptoms. She is a clinical dietitian. She went to college for this stuff, and she could tell people what to eat, what not to eat.
Yeah. Shout out to Lisa, by the way. Shout out to Lisa. I think she gets the sainthood for dealing with you. No doubt. Dude. No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, her being 13 years younger than me, Louie, that doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt, baby. Doesn't hurt. Well, that's funny because you're going to be 74. I'm 62, so I got you. I know where you're at. So yeah, I got this thing that we do at the end of the podcast. I just started doing it. Really, it's called 45 RPM, like a single. I'm going to ask you just a couple of quick questions, and then we're gonna take it home.
Okay.
Guilty pleasure that people listening would be surprised to hear Mark Farner. Not necessarily musical guilty pleasure, but give us something like a guilty pleasure.
A guilty pleasure would be overdoing a big plate of foie gras.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Sports fan. Who's your favorite sports teams?
Detroit Tigers, Detroit Lions, Detroit Pistons.
Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah,
Okay.
buddy.
So you're an old Gordie Howe, Ted Lindsay fan, huh? Roger Crozier.
Yeah, buddy.
That's great. And best road food besides Halo Burger.
Yeah. Best road food. God, I would have to say egg foo young, man, whenever we can get to some. I love that stuff.
Great answers. Fantastic. I love it. So what's coming up? Talk to us. What's coming up? Give us a shout out. Tell us what's cooking. I'm looking forward to hearing from what's going on.
We got some dates coming up in New York, as a matter of fact. We've got, I think, 3 dates coming up in New York. You can check it out on markfarner.com. Doing some in Illinois, some in Florida, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting back out and getting back on the stage in front of people.
You still digging the road? You still digging the road?
I'm digging the road. Yeah, man. I got a song that I've been trying out live, and it's really worked good. It's called Hoochie Mama.
Oh, yes. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've heard it.
Okay. So, and you see what happens, man, is all the ladies, the Hoochie Mamas come down and start dancing. And I'm telling you, even if you couldn't tap your foot in time, if you got out there on that dance floor with them Hoochie Mamas, buddy, you would be dancing your ass off.
I love it. I love it. Well, Mark, I got to tell you, shout out to Melissa Kisurik for putting us together. I really appreciate her as well. I know she's an angel to you.
Yes, she is.
You want to say any shout outs before we split?
Shout out to our veterans. To our veterans and to our active duty, to our troops, our cops, the good cops that we have, the first responders, the people that don't get much mention, but they really keeping our shit together, brother. God bless them all.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say, God bless you, man. And thank you so much. Sincerely. I mean, I was juiced, man. I was psyched. I told a bunch of my buddies, there are a couple of bar bands we used to play. I used to play in bar bands back in the day, but I had a good friend of mine. I'll shout out to him. His name is Joe Scola for Full House. They did an amazing version of Bad Time as well. And closer to home, of course. But I want to say thank you so much for taking the time and just being so open and honest. And one thing I learned, you got a lot going on, a lot to say. Mark Farner is all about love.
Amen. Amen, brother Louie Max.
You might not know it, right? You might not know it, but he really is.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you, Louie. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, I feel good. You look great. You're still kicking. I'm hoping that hoping when you come to New York, I catch up with you. I get to shake your hand. It would be beautiful. Buddy. I would love to.
I would as well, brother.
And Grind and Pivot, pivotal moments that change everything. Legendary icon in everybody's book, Mr. Mark Farner. Thank you, Captain. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother Louie. And thank all of the Grind and Pivot fans. God bless you all.
Closing doors, please.